We'll be starting shortly. This is just a quick sound test. We'll be starting shortly. This is just a quick sound test. Hello everybody, welcome to Members Monday number 4. I'm absolutely pumped to have you here for Members Monday, and I think we've got a few new members in the chat, or at least one new member in the chat, so welcome Jazz, Finn. I'm absolutely pumped that you're joining us for Members Monday. So today, working with multiple files in Excel VBA. So many people out there trying to do that. How much time have you spent in your career clicking around multiple files, opening a file, finding some information, closing a file, opening another file, copying, pasting some information in? This takes a lot of time and effort, super frustrating. With just some VBA, we can get a lot done. We can get it done at the click of a button, in fact, and we saw in the last Members Monday live stream the kind of thing that we can do. And let me briefly explain what's going on here. We've got a data file. It's a typical situation. A data file, we've got data in here. We want to ask questions, answer questions about that data. For example, this product, number 21. What's the SKU number of that product? I don't want to have to manually go and open the file in order to establish that information. I want VBA to go and do it automatically. You know, what's the description for this product? Does this product even appear in this file? Can you imagine that, having to manually look down this data in order to find if a particular product number is there? They are typical questions people are trying to answer. People are wasting hours, days of time across the world trying to do this kind of thing. With Excel VBA, we can get it done at the click of a button. So we've got two files. We've got a control file. The name gives it away. It's going to control this process. And in the last live stream, Bart's got the files. Excellent. Yeah, I should say the files are available in the chat. I've put the links in the chat, so even if you're watching this on catch up, you should be able to access the live chat. The links are in there. I'll also put them in the description below the video, so you can download these files and work along with us. So this is what we did last time. So we wanted to answer this question. So does product 58 appear in the data? A typical question somebody might want to ask about a data set. Does this item of data appear in the data set? And we established in the code that yes, the product does appear, and yes, we got some information, the SKU and the target product description. The target path we're not using. Now this target path is if your file is in a different location to the file that the code is in. In our example, the file that the code is in, the control file and the data file, they're in the same location. So we don't need to worry about this target path. But if your target file, the data file you're working with, is in a different location, in a different folder on your computer, then you're going to have to think about the target path. So that gets a little bit more complicated there. So let's see what happens now. Okay, Jasmine, no problem. Yeah, I think I will say share the files on Dropbox generally. So it's good that you got set up, Jasmine. That's good stuff. So let's just refresh ourselves and go through the code. But first, a quick question. So particularly for Bart, because I know Bart was here last time. So what do you want to look at here, Bart? Do you want to look at defining the target ranges dynamically? Because a weakness of what we did last time, you could say, was we had to type in the code there. We had to manually kind of fix those ranges to look through to find the product. So we could do that more dynamically. Are you interested in doing that? Do you want to look through multiple products, code to look through multiple products? So we've only looked at a single product so far, product 58. What if you had a list of products? Would that be useful? Or do you want to look through multiple files? That's more complicated. Maybe it would be best to come back to that in a later stream. So maybe one of these two questions, Bart. Let me know what you think. But I'll just go through the code quickly here, because I know we've got Jasmine here. Jasmine, tell me something about yourself. Where are you from? I'm here in the UK. I know Bart is over in Belgium. So whereabouts are you in the world? And let me know what stage of your career are you at? Are you just getting started in VBA? Are you more experienced? Let me know. Let's step through the code here. So this is something we always do on the streams. You get the VBA editor open, get this view where you can see the file and the VBA editor at the same time. This is where having two screens and auxiliary monitor can help you. And then you can go debug and step into. or you can just hit the F8 key. You can see it says F8 here. So you can just hit the F8 key on the Windows PC. And then we've got the other file open here, initiating some variables here. Checking if these initiated properly. Yes, they are. And then we're just going through the code. Okay, and all seems to be working well. Good. Okay, so yeah, you download the files and save them to your computer. Make sure you save them in the same folder. If you don't save them in the same folder, the code won't work. Just see if you can get the code working. So I should be able to click the button now, and I can see this code is working. So now we can kind of understand the beauty of this. So let's change this to product 20. And what we'll see is different values come back in here. Again, to understand this, go back to the last stream, Members Monday number 3, get info, and we can see we've got our information coming in there. So this is the basic idea. Bear with me a second. Just got to switch the heater off in the office there. Okay. Okay, Jasfin says, coming with a structured finance background. Excellent. So it sounds like you might have some experience, certainly with Excel and maybe with VBA as well. And let me know what kind of financial sector are you in. Are you doing stuff like trading, accountancy? Let me know. So let's see. Jasfin is in Orange County, CA. Fantastic stuff. And I'm beginning with VBA, but I've been playing around for the past few months. Good. Good. Yeah, that's a great place to be. Being a beginner, but just playing around with some VBA. And, you know, that's what we do on the channel. You know, we try to play around and have some fun, but also have some serious applications. And this is based on Bart's kind of real world application here. So Bart's saying, yes, Bart, I did get your last email, but I haven't read it in detail. I've got to be honest, been quite busy this week. Bart says the data file is dynamic, but the maximum rows are more or less 35 rows with data. Okay. So do you want to look at the dynamic ranges then, Bart? Is that a good thing for you to look at, or do you want to look at something else? Let's look at some options for this dynamic range. Okay. So a slight weakness we've got here. So we have to tell, thank you, Bart. Bart says, yes, please. So we have to tell Excel, where is this data range? And what we're actually looking at, let's just get this data file open here. Okay, so we have to specify, tell Excel the range that this data occupies, the range that this data is in. That's important because we've got to say to Excel, look here to find the piece of data. We're looking for a particular product, product 21, product 45, whatever it might be. We've got to tell Excel to look in this data. And we're doing that at the moment. I mean, it's not too bad, the approach, I suppose. We're doing that at the moment by manually typing in the target range, B5 to B104. And I'm just going to go to the data now. We've got B5 going down to the bottom of the data to B104 coming into your screenshot right at the bottom there. That's how we're doing it now. But what's the disadvantage of this approach? And as always, as programmers, we're thinking, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the approach that I'm doing? All approaches have strengths and weaknesses, some more than others, some more strengths and fewer weaknesses, and the other way around. But any approach has weaknesses. And with those weaknesses, we've got to be aware of them as a programmer. But we might have to tell our customer, tell our client what those weaknesses are. And the weakness of this approach is if we had additional data coming in at the bottom of the database, I'll just copy a line down here. If we had additional data coming in at the bottom, then it's not included in our range as it's specified here. So that's what we call a static approach. That's a non-dynamic approach. Very common in VBA, particularly if you're working in files that people in companies, not programming specialists, have put together. Very common to see this kind of static setup. But it's not particularly helpful because in real life, we're going to have more data, we're going to have less data in the file. So let's look at how we might make this more dynamic. So how might we do that? Can you guess? Maybe you can guess, Bart, by looking through the code here. But clearly it's a difficult thing to try to do. So what do? Whenever we come up with a difficult problem in VBA, we break it down step by step. This makes things so much easier. How about a named range that's a table? Jasfin, that's a good idea. I suppose the disadvantage of that approach is if we're in the data file, then we're assuming that we don't have access to this data file. It's the kind of file maybe you download from online or something like that. So it's not a file we're going to have regular access to. Therefore, we're not going to be able to put a named range into the file. But if you did have regular access to it, yes, you could put a named range in the file. You could make it a dynamic named range. And Members Monday 1, I think we actually covered that, how to create a dynamic named range using offset or indirect or something else. But we're assuming in this case that we don't have regular access to this file, so we won't be able to put a named range in. So first step would be to find, yeah, Bart's onto it. Excellent. Yep. Yeah, I think I answered your question there, Jasmine. So Bart's saying, yeah, range. So range is one of our building blocks, one of our VBA building blocks. So we say range. So whenever we're dynamically defining a range, more than one cell, dynamically defining a range in Excel VBA, we use this concept of range. So range is saying to Excel, yeah, we want to work with a range. And then the first part of the range, well, what's this? That's the beginning of the range we want to look at. The second part of the range, that's the end of the range that we want to look at. So the beginning of the range, well, we're going to have to make some assumptions. And this is the actual approach I used to this. I did this in a client file very, very recently in the past couple of weeks. I just saw the client this week. The actual approach I use, which I think gives you the right balance between flexibility and, the difficulty of the programming, is to say, rather than say target range, we say start cell here. So we do have to make some assumptions. And we have to know what the starting cell of the data is. I haven't come across an example yet where the client doesn't know where the start cell of the data is. Often the client doesn't know how much data is there, but it's very likely you know where the start cell is. Often that's just A1. It's the first cell in the spreadsheet. In our example, it's going to be B5. If you didn't know the start cell, there are ways that VBA could look around the file and find the first cell that has data in. That is possible, but that's the kind of thing that's so obscure as to be not very useful at all, really. Although it is the kind of thing I've done on projects. So we're just going to say start cell B5. And then we've got to think about, okay, so we've got a start cell. So how do we get the end cell? So yeah, Bart, good. Excellent. So this was my next question. And maybe Jasfin, maybe you could chip in here as well. I don't know how far you got with our coding videos, but we're going to say, yeah, we know the starting point. So what's the VBA construct? Just a few letters, but super powerful, that takes us to the bottom of the data set. Actually takes us to the next empty cell. Do you know that one, Jasmine? Super powerful. And Bart has given us a bit of help in the chat there. So it's this line of code here. Well, I'll keep the tension there, and I'm going to start to put this together. Okay, so different ways to do this. Okay, we've already got target range as a string variable here. Okay, so okay, how to demonstrate this? I'm going to say message box. Okay. Target range. Yeah. I'm going to do it this way. Right. I'm going to have another variable here. Okay. So this is the starting cell in the file. Okay. And then I'm going to assign a value to this variable here. So start cell is C5. Equals actually I can do this in here, can't I? Okay, let's put this in here. Here we go. Okay, so we've now got the start cell. Yeah, Jasfin, fantastic, good stuff. So dot end XL down, dot end XL down, super powerful. What are our other options there? We've got dot end XL up, dot end XL to left, dot end XL to right, as you see it. Super powerful pieces of code, assuming we have high quality data that doesn't have gaps in. If your data does have gaps in, there's other ways for us to work around it, and we can definitely look at those. Right, so target range. In fact, to illustrate this, just going to comment this out for a second. I'm going to have a message box here, and I'm going to say, okay, so okay. XL down, there's our super powerful construct. Dot row. Let's try this. Let's just try this. So looks like a lot of code there. So let's go through it. So what we're saying here, workbooks other file. So again, you can go back to the previous video, members Monday 3. But this other file variable is storing the name of the other file, which in our case is the other file to the control file, which is the data file here. So this is pointing VBA to the data file. It's going to be the first sheet in the file. So that's another assumption that we make, that we have the right number of sheets in the file, or at least the right order of sheets in the file. And then we're saying, so start at start cell. I'm going to work through this code here using the F8 key. Make sure the other, this file is closed, or the code might not work. If you try to open a file that's already open, the code might not work. Let's go back into VBA there. Using the F8 key. Okay, we've got the file open. Back to the VBA editor. So I'm using Alt and Tab to switch between the windows there. Okay, so I want to check this start cell variable. Check this start cell variable. Do we have a value in there? We do. We've got B5 in there. So Excel is going to go to our data workbook here, our data file, the first sheet in the file. It's going to find this start cell B5, which we of course configure in the control file. Then it's going to go to the end of the column and hopefully give us the row number. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but hopefully give us the row number. So let's just continue here, F8. Then we've got a message box flashing up, which is 104 there. Now let's stop this for the time being. So let's try to prove this dynamic quality. We got 104 there. That's because Excel went from B5 to the next empty cell and then one row above. So the end of the range effectively gave us this value. But I don't want you to believe that, guys. I don't want you to believe me. Let's just knock some data off the bottom here. Knock some data off the bottom. In fact, I'm just going to move it across and then maybe we can move it back in. So what's going to happen now? Let me know in the chat. Jasfin or Bart, anybody else? I think it's just us today, guys. that's what it's looking like. But we do have Cameron and Bob and a few other members who should be joining us next time, hopefully. So now what's going to happen with this message box line of code? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be 104? Bart is on it. You're on it, Bart, today. 89. Let's not make the same mistake again. Control S, save the file. Make sure you're working along with me, guys. Let me know in the chat if you're managing to work along. Open the file. Lovely. Alt Tab. Get the VBA editor back. And then Jasfin, you're right too, I think. And then we have 89 here. So this is our dynamic mechanism. So when the data rather, there's more or less data in the file, Our code can handle that. It's a dynamic solution. Super powerful. You know, the people you work with, if they haven't seen this before, it is going to blow their mind. They're going to love it. A couple of things to be aware of when we're working with this kind of thing. So what's going to happen now? What if we just do this? Take this piece of data out. What's going to happen now? Let me know in the chat. And this is the kind of thing we've got to be aware of. Okay, working through the code again. F8 key on the Windows PC. Stepping through, our files open. Alt-Tab. VBA editor is back. Stepping through the code. Start cell. We've got the value in the variable. Okay, you see what's happened here? Now it's returned a value of 11. So this is a weakness, really. A weakness with our approach. And perhaps, yeah, I think actually I'm going to show you a better approach for this. Bart is absolutely right. Jasfin, did you get that as well? So we've got a value of 11 now. Why did that happen? It's because, what happened there? Stop that. Target range. Yeah, we haven't defined target range. That's why we got an error there. So why is that happening? Well, Excel is going to stop when it gets to the next empty cell. So this could be problematic. You've got to have high quality data to make sure that this kind of thing is working. What kind of safeguards can you take? And the kind of thing I do, well, as a general rule, try to avoid a situation where you have empty cells. When you're doing data entry, make sure something goes into the cell. So for example, I've been doing a project with a user form this year, managing a little Excel database using a user form. If the user doesn't enter anything in the user form, then we still put something in the cell. So you could put no entry, something like that. Generally, we want to avoid blank cells for this reason, because if Excel gets to a blank cell, it thinks, oh no, that's the end of the data. Well, it's not actually the end of the data. So this is just a bit of a tip, some good practice. Try to avoid blank cells, put something like no entry or NA, or even just write blank in there. Whatever it might be. So I'm going to pop this back in now. Okay, so my challenge then, can we count the cells in the total column? The cells in the total column. So do you mean it in one of these other columns, Bart? We could count, yeah, we could count a different column, of course. But then we might have the same problem. We might have the same problem where we have a blank cell. So I'll show you the actual approach I use, which I think is pretty cool. Have you got any ideas? Yeah. Bart says count B. Yeah, we could count any of the other columns. But a better approach, and the approach, as I said, the approach I actually use in my work is to say to Excel, or make the end of the count large. Yep, possible. All of these are possible. Jasfin is also possible. What if we did this? How about this? So let's switch views for this because we're going to have some big numbers here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Jasfin, you're pretty much right there. You've got the principle anyway. So what we can say to Excel is, rather than start at the top and go down, yeah, rather than start at the top and go down, we can say to Excel, start at the bottom and go up. Yeah. Can you see how that would work for us? If Excel starts at the bottom and goes up, Control, up arrow, we're going to get to our first row of data, even if we have blank cells in the data. And we know that intuitively from the way Excel works. Control, down arrow, takes us to the end of the universe, the last row in the spreadsheet. Control and up arrow is going to take us to the end of the data set, to the next piece of data it gets to, even if there's blank data in this data set. Okay. So again, it's not foolproof. There's some problems. If you have a piece of data here, yeah, then this approach is also going to be problematic. But I've found it's less likely you'll have data here than you'll have a blank cell in the data set. So that's why for me, this is the best approach. So that's the concept. That's the concept. Bart said he didn't know about this one, so you definitely learned something in Members Monday, Bart. That's good. That's good to see. How would the code work for this one though, guys? Do you know? How do we get Excel to go to the bottom of the sheet? You know, Jasvin had the idea, like, go to cell 10,000. Yeah, that's possible. But what's the weakness with that? Well, the weakness is, what if we had more data? What if we had more data than 10,000? You may say that's unlikely, but it's still a weakness. And it's just as easy to program in a more sustainable approach. Any ideas? I'm trying to think myself now how to do this. Okay. Okay, right, let's try this. So a slight change to the setup here. And again, this is, the more I'm working on this, the more I'm turning it into one of my pieces of work. Jasvin says, can we use end? Yes, we're going to use end. What kind of end are we going to use though, Jasvin? Are we going to use end Excel down? We're actually going to use end Excel up. And you're going to see in a second. I don't know what that would look like if I record and click to the end on the keyboard. Try that code. Try that code. Try setting up the macro recorder, say control down on the keyboard. I don't know if that records nicely or not. This .end Excel down, .end Excel up. It might be the kind of code you have to record. You know, using the macro recorder is a great way to work with code. I still do it myself, but there are some things we can't record. You know, loops and conditional statements being something. This piece of syntax, I don't know if we can record it. So rather than start cell, we're now going to say target column. We're just going to put a letter in here. Okay, let's make sure we close our file here. Alt F4 on the Windows PC. Yeah, I'll save it. So what's going to happen now? Let's go back to our code. Step through the code with the F8 key. Just got to stretch out my shoulder a little bit here. I think Bart knows, Jasvin, but I've got a bit of a bad shoulder at the moment. Too much coding, I think. But that's stretched it out nicely. Right, F8 key. I just want to see that we're getting a value into this variable here. So start cell, we just got the letter B. Just got the letter B there. Right, so what we can do now is we can see the B showing up. So I'm just hovering the cursor over a variable. Super powerful technique for understanding VBA. A lot of people don't know it. Just hover the cursor over the variable and you can see the value in the variable there. Yes, Bart, the shoulder's still bad. It's getting better. I saw the physio last night. I had a session with the physio and she's given me some new exercises to do. It's funny. It's not too bad, the shoulder. It's not an injury. It doesn't hurt. It just feels a little bit irritating sometimes. And it's something I want to get rid of long term. So I've got the letter B here. So we could do something like, so this is your idea, Jasvin. Something like this. And this would work fine if we did this. Okay. This, I think, would work fine. In fact, let's just demonstrate this. Close this file. This, I think, would work fine, but it's not optimal. But it's good to demonstrate it because it was your idea. Good learning. F8 key. Then we get the message box. Okay, we've got 104. I might have made some changes to the data, guys, so I might be getting a slightly different result to you. I've got 104 there. So you can see that worked well. That worked well. Just for saying, I was thinking just click the end key, but it's not doing anything. Okay. Yeah, it might not be easy to record this code, Jasvin. Might not be easy to record this code. So maybe just follow along with the demonstration and I'll show you how to do it. So this works okay. But what happens if we go beyond 10,000? Then this approach isn't going to work. So what's the line of code to say to Excel the number of rows in the sheet? Do you know? The number of rows in the sheet. You know, if we can say to Excel, just go to the cell that's the last row in the sheet, that's going to be a super sustainable approach long term. Doesn't matter how much data goes into the file is still going to work. Even if Excel, what if this were to happen? What if Excel were to introduce new rows into the bottom of Excel? Currently we have 1 million rows. You know, expansion is coming in Excel. We might have 20 million rows soon. We'd still want our code to work. So do you know the line of code here? Well, we can go ahead and say rows.count. I think rows.count there. Rows.count is the number of rows in the spreadsheet. Yeah, Jasmine, yeah, we could use a variable to do this. Yeah, and we could say rows.count. We could allocate that value to a variable. You can see I've used quite a few variables here anyway. I think if I was doing this on my own without doing a presentation, then I probably wouldn't use as many variables, but I find the variables help me when I'm under pressure to kind of break down the code and to understand it easier. So I tend to use more variables when I'm presenting. Jasmine's there with rows.count. Good. .count, super useful. Rows.count, columns.count, workbooks.count gives us the number of open workbooks. Cells.count gives us the number of cells in a range. We can count the number of filtered rows. We can count the number of visible rows. So this .count method is super useful for us. So let's see if we can get this working now. Okay, a F8 key. Okay, this file's open. Schoolboy error there. Okay, hitting the F8 key here. Okay, file's open. Alt and Tab on the Windows PC. Back to the VBA editor. Values in the variables. Okay, we've got 104 there. So let's prove this. I'm just going to go ahead and repeat some data. Control Shift, right, down, Control C, Control V. So we've got some repeated data, but it shouldn't matter too much. So now we're expecting this to return a value of 115. Okay, back to the VBA editor. Make sure you save and close the file. F8 key, stepping through the code. File is open. Alt Tab. Okay, we've got 115 there. So this is the kind of testing I do. You know, you might think, oh, you're just doing the testing for the demonstration. And don't get me wrong, it's important to make sure people understand the importance of testing. But this, if I was working on this file on my own, this is pretty much what I'll be doing. I'll be putting a little bit in, doing a test, using the message box to test, stepping through the code using the F8 key, hovering the cursor over the variable to understand the value of the variable. This is the kind of thing I do all the time myself anyway. So I said in the previous stream, you know, whether you agree or disagree with my coding approach, it's authentic. You know, it's the approach that I use in real life on my projects. So we're happy that this line of code is giving us a value. Okay, so now target range. Remember, we've got this target range variable here. Okay. So now we can bring this code back in. Can you see how this is going to work? Just going to use an underscore here. All the underscore does is it allows me to continue the code on a new line. Okay. And then delete. You can just see that code above me. Okay. What if the criteria is a few times the same? Yeah, the criteria. So Bart, I think you're talking about if, yeah, so I think that was probably because we just repeated this data. And I also like to use the data of other row with the same data. Yep. Yes, so if that's the case, Bart, maybe we'll look at this next time. Maybe we'll look at this next time. But what you'd want is something like, you'd want to create a report that looks something like this. So you have the product name. Yeah, and then you might say occurrence. Occurrence being the the order in which it occurs. Okay, so that's occurrence 1, occurrence 2, occurrence 3. Okay, and then over here you'd have your SKU, your description. Yeah, so it's totally possible to produce this kind of report, even if this data is different. We just have to tell Excel to loop through. Yeah, you're saying that's it. Good. We're just telling Excel. We wouldn't be able to do it so well using application.worksheet function. We'd have to actually loop through all of these rows, in order to do that. But let me know if that looks useful, Bart. We can look at doing that next time. And as you said in your email, we can turn it into a bit of a series, you know, great for Members Monday and great for you for getting things done. Okay. Good. So, okay, we've got target range now. And we get rid of this. Okay. So now I want to know, is this target range variable? Are we getting the right value in there? So again, let's do a test. Is the data file open? Control S, save the file. Alt F4 to close the file. Yeah, let's do that another time. Okay, but yeah, we can look at that next Members Monday. That's a good question. When is the next Members Monday going to be? Just have a quick break and work this out. Next Members Monday will probably be 30th of December. 30th of December. So let me know, Bart, and let me know, Jasfin. Let me know if you guys will be there. I might ask the other members as well to make sure that you know, at least 3 or 4 people can come. But guys, I mean, you guys, we've got, you know, a few members now. You know, there's a few members not here today, but I really appreciate you guys signing up, and I think you're getting lots of value now. You know, in 3 months we might have 100 members. You know, that would be nice. You know, we don't know, but you guys are getting massive value at the beginning here. So, but I think you deserve that, you know, for making an investment in the channel. Yeah, Bart says you also need to get some rest and a vacation. That's right, Bart. That's why I'm doing Members Monday today. So I'm going to have a bit of a vacation, and we're going down to see my girlfriend's grandmother down in Dorset, and doing Christmas shopping tomorrow. And they're going to be spending some time with the dog as well, and with my family. My twin sister's coming back to Nottingham, which is where I live, and you know, got some plans. Going to be doing all of the family stuff. It's going to be good. Anyway, so are we getting the right value into this variable here? Hitting the F8 key. Okay, file is open. Alt Tab back to the VBA editor. So target range, we've got B115. Okay, not quite there yet. Not quite there. So target range B115. Good. Can anybody see? Yeah, thank you, Bart. Yeah, always enjoy Christmas. Always good. So can you see the problem here, though? The problem we're having. So we've got the end of the data range, B115. But we've got to think, what are we using this variable for? This target range variable. What are we actually using it for? Well, we're using it here to define a range with multiple cells in. We currently only have one cell in. So this is a good question. What do we have to do to this line of code to make it into a range with a start point and an end point? Currently we only have an end point, but we actually want a start point too here. Okay. Yeah, exactly. To look at everything, I'm going to go ahead here. Just cheat a little bit. I'm going to sprinkle some gems over this. Hopefully, some VBA gems. And this is now. I'm going to now restore this to start cell, because we do need that start cell information. The start cell information is going to help us now when we're defining this whole range here. Start, yes, and okay, and start cell. Okay, Okay, I'm going to quickly change the name of this variable because it's a bit misleading now. And this is now going to be start. It's almost target column this. I'm going to say target. I'm going to say target col instead. Oops. Start cell, target column. Yeah, we won't need offset with this one. We shouldn't need offset with this one, but because the dynamic quality, yeah, it's a good question though. What techniques give you dynamic quality? Often it's offset. Often it's offset. There you go. Gives you dynamic quality. Dot end gives you dynamic quality. And there's other ways to do it as well. A spreadsheet formula such as count A, which tells you how many entries are in a data set. That gives you dynamic quality as well. But let's see, have we managed to properly define this variable here? Close the data file, Alt F4. That's the VBA editor, F8 key. File is open. Okay, how's this looking? Oh, okay. Target call. Okay, we need another. And here. Okay, try again. Close the data file, Alt F4. Back into the VBA editor here. VBA editor again. Right, there we go. So that seems to have worked well. B5 to B115. So the B5, the beginning of the range, that's coming from the entry in C5 in the control file. That's giving us B5. And then the rest, so the B115 part, that's coming from our dynamic code here, our dynamic code. So that B115, that's going to go up and down as the data goes up and down. So that's where the dynamic quality comes from. So finally, is this going to work for us? So let's choose, let's see. I'm just going to go ahead and run this code. Okay, product 20. S1737, product 20. Let's have a look. Data file is opening. Product 20 is, where's product 20 then? Can anybody see product 20? How would you do this? Put a match formula in here. So I'm doing manually now what we're using VBA to do. And we don't need match type for this one. Maybe we do. Okay, there we go. What have I done wrong there then? Okay. B115. There we go. So we're in row 53 here. 53 plus 5 is 58. Should be in row 58 maybe. Row 57 got product 20. Sweater black and S1737. And we've got that information there. Right, let's try another product then. Let's go for let's go for product 18 here. Okay, close this file. Let's go product 18. Okay, get info. Yeah, the file's closed. Going to get info. Okay. Justin says, why is target call with left range C5? Yeah. So this left formula, I'll put it in the spreadsheet here. So the left is going to just take the first character. If we set it up like this, it's going to take the first character, which is in this case a letter. So this means, you're going to see it, this is going to give us a value of B. If we said left and 2, it's going to give us 2 characters, which just gives us the whole, in this case, the whole entry. So left 1 is going to give us the leftmost character, in this case, the first character. Other useful formulae, right, left, right. We've got the right formula as well, and mid as well. I'll let you play with mid yourself, but mid is also useful. So super useful text formulae, left, right, mid, find, and there's a few others as well. So that's what we're doing in VBA, and that formula we can access. Well, we're actually using a VBA function here. Because this function is available to us in VBA. There we go. So that means we're just going to get the letter, and that means we can concatenate, combine together the letter with our dynamic row value, which is here. Okay, hope that answers your question, Jasvin. Let's run the code here. Product 18, S1735, sweater black. S1735, product 18. Going to manually open the file now. Yep, good, Jasvin. You think you see it? Good. Yeah, make sure you're working through the file yourself. And if you can get it working yourself, fantastic stuff. You know, that's real evidence that you've understood it. Data file open. Okay, here we go. It's product 18, I think it was. Product 18 at the top, 1735 and sweater black. Okay, so that's how we do it. And, you know, in real life, I'll continue with a few more tests. Obviously, it's more difficult with the multiple files and the streaming and stuff to do a lot of testing. But you might say to me, well, Chris, we've only done one line of code, which is kind of true. We've only really done one line of code here. But it's super powerful, and there's so many different techniques combined there. We've already mentioned our superhero technique here, which gives us the dynamic quality, dot end XL up. That's really the most important one, but combining that value with the rest of the worksheet range, that gives us the target range value, and it's going to be dynamic. We can then use it in our in this case using the application.worksheet function. But what we'll go on to do next time, rather than using application.worksheet function to find the product, to target the product, to find the product in the database, we'll look at looping through the database. So rather than using application.worksheet function, we'll use something like for each cell in target range. So even if we use the other approach, it's going to be super useful for us. Let me know, guys. So Jasvin and Bart, thank you so much. Let me know any final questions. But I'll just go through just some basic information. Firstly, thank you so much, guys. Thank you again for joining up. And Jasvin, a new member. Yep, Jasvin, you got a question? I will wait for your question. But just to remind you guys and anybody else on catch up, next Members Monday will be the last one for 2019, will be December the 30th, 2019, probably 5 or 6 o'clock UK time. If you have any other suggestions for the time, obviously it can't be perfect for everybody, but if you have a strong view on when the time should be, send me an email. I'll see what I can do. Jasmine says, about the speech application, can we modify the voice? Good question. I don't know about that. I would imagine it's possible. I don't know. I would guess that there's a default voice, which maybe you set in Windows. Maybe it would be in Windows settings as opposed to in the Excel settings. So maybe have a look at that, Jasvin. Good. Thank you, Jasvin. Merry Christmas, and Merry Christmas to Bart too, and to your families. And excellent, Bart saying 1700 UK time. So if I don't hear anything else, I'll see you again after Christmas Day, which will be 5 o'clock UK time, and we'll push this example forward. 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. We'll see, Bart. Okay, take care, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.